Today we will start from stages in public procurement process. So the public procurement process, we already discussed this thing, institutions and regulatory framework for public procurement. In the last session, we have discussed. Now we move to the public procurement process. The public procurement process is categorized mainly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. 5 stages. The first stage is procurement preparation, procurement preparedness, and planning. So initial steps within the procuring entity. So the procurement preparedness and planning. So planning stage. And then invitation for bid, receiving bids, closing bids, and opening bids. And after opening the bids will be evaluated. This is number 3 of the process. And then after evaluation, the contract will be awarded. Contract, award, and debriefing. And finally, contract administration and closer out. This is the initial this is the last stage of the public procurement process. So first planning and in bid opening and closing, bid receiving, opening, so bid close, bid receiving, closing, and opening, bid evaluation, contract award and debriefing, contract administration, and closer out. So these are the steps. So these 5 steps are monitored and regulated by institutional and regulatory framework for public procurement. So where we have discussed National Procurement Agency, National Procurement Commission, circulars issued by Ministry of Finance, Treasury, and guidelines, procurement, national procurement guidelines, national procurement manuals. In case of international, we have to follow international procurement guidelines and so on. And there are committees we have discussed: procurement committee, technical evaluation committee, and procurement committee. There are levels, and also in procurement entity and technical evaluation committee, multiple things. And now we discuss about procurement preparedness and planning. This is the first step: preparedness and planning. So efficient planning of the entire procurement process is vital to ensure timely completion of the project and to obtain the best market value for it. So procuring entity will be responsible for procurement preparedness and planning for any of its procurement activities. So you know that for every managerial activities, planning is very important. If without planning, it is impossible to complete the project on time, and without planning, it is very difficult to get the right quality of product at right quantity at right time. And the responsibility of preparing the planning the procurement process and the preliminary activities related to the procurement and initial document of preparing initial documents. Procurement document is responsible of procuring entity. Procuring entity will be responsible for the procurement preparedness and planning for any procurement activities. So these activities may include inter alia among them, right? Number 1, ensuring availability of funds. Before start up any procurement process, so they have to confirm there are enough funds to make the procurement. Initial environmental examination. right? Initial environmental examination. Say the government wanted to establish or construct new harbor in the coastal area of Sri Lanka. Before start any procurement process, they have to study the impact on environment, and environmental impact assessment. So once they passed in initial environmental examination, then they have to go for environmental impact assessment, and then social impact assessments. So in the what the impact will be on the society in that area. Mm. So the new expressway project, many small villages has been displaced to another area, and many uh, employment opportunities also created. At the same time, existing employment opportunities was demolished. So it may be impact on the social impact assessment, and all other procurement preparedness activities as may relevant to the project, ensuring that it has completed land acquisition. And if government organization want to construct a building or expand a road, they have to acquire that land. After acquisition of the land, purchase of the land, only they can start the procurement process or building construction process, land acquisition, and resolve compensation. So in case of harbor, construction of new harbor, establishment of new harbor, then if they decided, then there are people around that area. They have to displaced into another area. So that time the people living that area will lose their own places, own houses. For that, the government need to settle, settle for their settle the compensation. It will most of the time is happen on the road expansion project, and resettlement issues. Right? Because people will be displaced, including relocation of utilities and such other matters which are necessary for the uninterrupted implementation of the project. And then getting procurement committee and technical evaluation committee properly constituted. So all these steps are done, then they have to establish procurement committee and technical evaluation committee. Preparing a master procurement plan, preparing master procurement plan, and the preparation of procurement implementation plan. After that, after master procurement plan, then they have to prepare procurement implementation plan, PIP, and detailed procurement plan. Then procurement time schedule, procurement time schedule, uh, total cost estimate and budgeting of the project, total cost estimate and budgeting. Preparation of invitation for pre-qualification and its submission of technical evaluation committees for review and approval. And the procuring entity should prepare a document in which what are the specification of the item going to procure, and it should be submitted to the technical evaluation committee to verify the specifications given in the document is appropriate manner, is prepared in appropriate manner, and the technical evaluation committee will review and approve. Preparation of the draft bidding document, preparation of the draft bidding document including specification and Submission of the same to Technical Evaluation Committee for review and approval. First, they have to submit the pre-qualification to the Technical Evaluation Committee. Then they have to submit the bid document, draft bid document for the review and approval by the Technical Evaluation Committee. And finally, internal system for procurement actions. Internal system for procurement actions. Procurement planning. Procurement plan defines the product. So what are the product we are going to purchase, or what kind of building we are going to construct it, that sort of things. Defines the product and services that you will obtain from external suppliers. First, we have to define what we are going to purchase, procure. A good procurement plan will go one step further by describing the process you will go through to appoint those suppliers contractually. So, a good plan beyond, go beyond just defining the procurement services, product and services. So they should have a process, a detailed process of acquiring the things, good or service, good service or works. Procurement planning is the process. Procurement planning is the process used by companies and institutions, especially government institutions, to plan purchasing activity for a specific period of time. It's a detailed plan. So what item going to purchase? So from where, when we purchase, that kind of things. What are the steps we're going to follow? And strategic procurement planning. When deciding which strategy to use, there are so many strategies in the procurement. So when deciding which strategy to use, the procuring entity has to take into account the following 6 factors. The strategy depends on these 6 characteristics. 6 factors, not characteristics. 6 factors. The value and the risk. The value of the item going to purchase and the risk of getting the item. Availability. Whether it's available in the local market, it's available from the, we have to purchase from the our international market. The importance to the procuring entity. The importance to the procuring entity. And characteristics of the market. It's a monopoly or oligopoly, perfect competition, that sort of things. So characteristic of the market and the influence to the market. Characteristic of the market and the influence to the market that procuring entity want to make. Transaction costs associated with the procurement and government policy objectives. So when deciding the strategy to use in the procurement planning, the procuring entity should consider these 6 factors. The conventionally, the procurement plan refers to the compiling, right? The procurement plan refers to compiling of list of all known goods, work, services. First, as I told you, it defined under the goods or service going to procure. So conventionally, it refers to compiling list of all goods, works, and services needed to complete the project of the organization. Then identifying and listing the details. Once you have identified what are the goods and work or services, then you have to identify the detail of such items. Identifying and listing the details. Cost of the item. Method of procuring of goods. Works and services required for completing the projects of the organization in a given financial year, and determining in advance the dates on which the stages involved in procurement process may be due. So once they define the items or goods they're going to procure, Then they have to prepare a detailed schedule, the detailed document. With the document it includes the cost of the items, method of purchasing of the items, and when it wants to purchase, from whom to purchase, right? The detailed time, the procurement time schedule also should be included in the procurement plan. This list then become the basis for deciding how these items should be combined or divided into contract packages, what method of procurement should be used for each, and scheduling for procurement activities. Right? So initially you list out the items. You list out the item. So in that item you may find at the tables, chairs, cupboard, computers, monitor, uh, laptop, and interior items like vase, paintings, and books, stationaries. So we have identified. Then we have to group the items. Say you can put into the basket, one basket, such as furniture basket. You can create a basket called furniture. In that you can put tables, chairs, almaris, like that, and you can put another basket that called uh, IT equipments. In the IT equipments you can put computers, monitor, laptop, tablets, like that, and you can put the group of items like stationaries, papers, tablet, pin, right? This kind of items you can categorize as another package, stationary package. Right? So this is how we have to divide the items. So packaging the items will be easy for purchasing or only for 10 bits, right? So if you put everything at once, so it is very difficult to purchase. Say table and chairs. This item is going to purchase furniture shops, and computer, laptop, printer, scanner. These items are unable to supply by the furniture supplying shop. So this IT equipment should be purchased in the IT equipment shop, IT related shops. And paper, pen, pencil, files for file cover, this kind of things are unable to purchase computer shops. These items can be purchased in the stationery shop. So this is how the items should be categorized into packages. Advantages of procurement plan. So by having the procurement plan, we can define your procurement requirement, define the organization's procurement requirements, and identify all the items that you need to procure. Right. So at the initial stage, you can list out what are the items going to purchase. If you don't have a proper plan, proper document plan for purchasing the items, every time, whenever it's come into your mind, you will ask, that item we want, this item we want, no, this item we don't want. So this kind of things will be not there if you have a proper procurement plan. Create a sound financial justification for proceeding items. So to purchase each and every item, so you have to give justification to purchase that, because government organizations use public fund. Every single rupees spent to purchase should have a justification. List all the tasks involved in procuring the required product and services. List all the tasks involved in the procuring required product and services. Create a robust project procurement process for your business. So these are the advantages of procurement plan. And preparing standard bid document and inviting bids. Say standard bid documents mean the National Procurement Agency has issued a guideline. In that guideline, you can find a standard, the model, a specimen, a bid document, standardized bid document. So all of you are a financial accountant background, accountancy background. So income statement. Income statement means it's common for all companies, and financial position, statement of financial position is common for all companies. So why it is in the same format for all organizations? Because it has a standard. Likewise, most of the bid documents issued by the government organizations are almost same, because there is a document called SBD, standard bid document. So all organizations should use that standard bid document to prepare their bids. Preparing standard bidding document. Procuring entity shall use the appropriate specimen standard bid documents approved by the National Procurement Agency with the minimum changes if necessary. We can make changes, but it should be minimum if necessary to address contract specific issues. So you can find these are the contents, these are the items of standard bid document. Standard bid documents. Bid document mean a document which consists of the detail of the items the organization going to purchase, right? So for example, the organization going to purchase computer lab equipment. So in bid document, all details will be available. So how many computers, what are the specification, how will be the monitor size, how will be the CPU size, what is the capacity of the hard disk, how many tables, how many mouses, right? So all the document, all the informations will be available in the bid document. So this bid document will help the suppliers to quote their price, to quote their price. So content of the standard bid document. Invitation to bid. Invitation to bid. First, the organization should advertise in the newspaper or their website based on their amount. Suppliers will be find that as this organization going to purchase the computer lab equipments, computer laboratory items. Then the related parties will be interested. So this is called what? Invitation to bid. Then, so number one, it will have invitation to bid. Instruction to bidders. Instructions to the bidders, the suppliers. Now, bid means quoting price. So, company X price for a particular item, 100 rupees. Company B put 110 rupees. 100, the company C put 98 rupees, like that. So, this is called bid. The prices are called a bid. The person who put the bid called bidders. Instruction to the bidders. Eligibility of bidders. Who can become a bidders? Who can bid? Quote the price. Bid validity period. Whether it's 1 month, 2 month. No, some items are price fluctuates time to time, every time, day by day. Right? The gold price. Right? Every day the price will be changed. And some computer items, technological items, every week the price will be changed. So bid validity period. So once they quote the price, so for how many days the price will be valid? That's called what? Bid validity period. Bid security, a bid declaration, details on pre-bid meetings. Details on pre-bid meetings. If the procuring entity wanted to have a meeting with the bidders, so detail of that meeting will be there. Provision on alternative bids. Alternative bids. Provision on value added tax VAT. Provision on VAT. And evaluation criteria to choose the bid to award contract, and draft contract to be issued. So these are the contents of standard bid documents. Then we go for the second step, that is invitation for bid, receiving bids, closing bids, opening of bids, right? So invitation means you may find in the newspaper uh, invitation for bids, invitation for bids. So for example, Southeastern University of Sri Lanka has invited the bidders to supply 50 computers to the laboratory at the Faculty of Management and Commerce. So that is invitation. And if you are a supplier, you will find that bid and you will take a note. And then in the bid invitation, the details, they mention the detailed bid document you can obtain from the supply division of the university. So then if you're interested, you go to the university supply division and you will get the document. The document called what? Bid document. Invitation means the procuring entity will inform to the general public that we are going to purchase this item. If anybody interested to purchase, supply the items, we can come to the particular place of the organization and you can collect that document. You can collect the details of the items we are going to purchase. So that is invitation. Receiving means uh, once the suppliers get the documents, bid documents. In that bid documents, as I mentioned you, there are details, full details of the items the organization needs, and they will put the price. They will put the price. A computer, HP computer, 150,000, like that. So there are many suppliers are there in the market, in the general public. So they will quote the price. They quote the price and send that bids to the university or the procuring entity, right? So that's mean the receiving. So that's a closing date. That's a closing, receiving and receiving the bids and closing the bids, right? So that's an open date. You can get the bid documents from 1st of January 2021, and the closing of the bids, the final date, closing date of receiving bids is the 28th of February 2021, like that. Receiving bids, closing bids, and after the closing date, all the quoted prices by the suppliers will be opened at the same time, because it's a competitive bid now, competitive bid. So all the bids will be opened at a time by the bid opening committees. So this is stage number 2: invitation, receiving, closing, and opening of bids. The bids the bid shall be received only at one location, right? At one location by mail, by post, by mail under registered post, by mail under registered post. So an organization can get the bids from the supplier by mail, is right, receiving. Personal delivery against receipts. So personally also, the person without posting, a person can submit the bid in the office. A personal delivery against receipts. So at the time of submitting the bids, they should issue a receipt acknowledgement to the officer authorized by the procuring entity to receive such bids at their specific location, and depositing the sealed tender box. You may find in government organization a box called tender box, and the bidders come and put their bids prices on that box in a sealed envelope. Depositing the sealed tender box identified for such purpose by the procuring entity, if so specified in the bid document. So in the bid document, they should clearly mention how do they submit the bid documents by the bidders. All bid must be submitted only under the sealed cover. Should be sealed cover, and the bidding document should be specify a condition of the effect, right? And the bidding document should specify a condition to this effect. A bid shall be submitted. Bid shall be submitted in one original, right? One bidder can supply on only one bid. The bid shall be submitted in one original and such number of copies as stipulated in the instruction to bidders. So the procuring entity wants more than one bid, one copy. So they should clearly mention in the bidding document instruction to bidders. In the instruction to the bidders, sealed separately and clearly marked as original if they is sending more than one. So only one will be accepted as original, other will be put copy, and original and copy. All these envelopes shall be all the envelopes shall together be enclosed in one envelope and delivered as per the above. So if you are submitting both original and copy, the both documents should be put in one envelope and submit to the procuring entity. So it means one procuring entity can submit one envelope. Right. Rejection of late bids. So bid shall be closed. It's a closing date of the bid submission. So bid shall be closed at the time specified in the bidding documents. Late bids shall not be accepted and shall be returned unopened. So if the closing date is 28th February 2020, any bids receiving after this date will not be accepted and it is not qualified for the competition of bids. Then, right, first we receive and closing. This is closing, right? There's a closing date. And opening, once they received all the bids from the bidders, all the bids will be opened. Responsibility of opening bids is vested with procuring entity. So procuring committee. The bid opening is the responsibility of the procurement committee. The procurement committee may delegate such authority to a bid opening committee, right? If the procurement committee wanted to do that by another party and the people and the group of people, they can delegate the power by forming bid opening committee. Bid opening committee. Bid opening committee is appointed by procuring committee. Delegates such authority to a bid opening committee, which shall compromise a minimum of 2 members approved by the procurement committee. Bids shall be opened at the presence of bidders, right? All the bidders will be invited to that place, that office, if they require, right? Bids shall be opened in the presence of bidders or their representatives or agents who wish to attend soon after the closing of the bids. So they will decide the date in the bid document. They will clearly mention the date. Say the all bids will be opened at 5th of March 2021 at 2 p.m. Then the bidders will be come there. Any bids received on or before the deadline for submission of the bid shall not be rejected at the bid opening. Bid opening means just they open the bid and they mention and they put the seal, receive seals. They can't, the bid document committee at bid opening, they can't take any decision. They put the seal called received seal on that date. And they will note out the prices, note out the quoted prices in the bids by the bidders. Only the bids marked as original, only the bids marked as original shall be opened at the bid opening. the copy shall not be opened. Only original will be opened. If any envelope is marked withdrawal means so they are withdrawn from the competition by the bidders. The bids are withdrawn from the competition. If any envelope is marked withdrawal of the bid is received on or before the deadline for the submission, the letter should be opened first. So withdrawal bid should be opened first. If the bid opening committee is satisfied beyond doubt with the content of the letter, the bidder's original bid should not be opened. If, if in doubt, the original bid should be opened with other bids, right? And any envelope marked modification should be opened with original bids. So a person may submit two bids, the one bid earlier, say they submit the bid on 2nd of February, and they have realized they wanted to make some modification, so they can submit another bid before the closing date. Then they put a label called modification. And receiving bids, right? Receiving of bids and closing and opening the bids. Continue. The bid opening committee, right? The bid opening committee shall read out the following to the present, right? So at the bid opening, the bidders will be there. That in front of them, they have to present the name of each bidders and the bid amount in the form of bid. They have to read the price bids. If not available, the total of the prices, price schedule or schedules of requirements. Whether or not bid security or bid security declaration is submitted, and they have to say the status of that bidders. Any discount offered by the bidders? Are there any discount and offers? Any other relevant information at bid opening committee's discretion. If bid opening committee decides so this sort of information should be disclosed, then they can disclose, they can read at the bid opening session. The proceeding of bid opening shall be recorded in the prescribed format and should be signed by all members of the bid opening committee. Finally, all the prices are put in a schedule, in a standard schedule, and the procurement bid opening committee members will be signed on there. The original bids together with minutes pertaining to bid opening shall be handed over to the chairman of the technical evaluation committee. Once they noted down all the bids of the bidders on the bids opened by the bid opening committee will be signed to sign the document and submitted to the technical evaluation committee. Now we'll move the third stage, that is bid evaluation. Bid evaluation. Right now they're going to evaluate the bids. There are several bids now. Bids are already opened. Then the evaluation committee knows the price of each bidders. So Mr. X put 100 rupees, Mr. B put 102 rupees, Mr. C put 95 rupees, like that. Now they know the prices. Purpose and stages of bid evaluation. The purpose of bid evaluation is to determine the lowest evaluated substantially responsive bid out of the bid receipt. Then they will sort out the prices bids, and they will choose who is the lowest bidder. Therefore, bid evaluation process could be divided into three broad stages. Yes, three stages. First, bid examination. Bid examination. To determine the eligibility of bidders, legal validity of bid, and substantial responsiveness of bid receipt. First, they will examine the eligibility of bidder. So there are bidders called as black mark bidders. Black mark. And they have to check, are there any things black, are they on the blacklist, or do they have the required certificates to supply items, registrations, to determine the eligibility of bidders, legal validity of bids, and substantial responsiveness of bid receipts. Number second space is a detailed bid evaluation. Detailed bid evaluation. Where? For it's for what? To determine the lowest evaluated bids. Lowest evaluated bids from among the substantially responsive bid receipts. And fourth phase is post-qualification. To determine the qualifications and experience of the lowest evaluated bidders. Right? The first phase is they check the eligibility of the bidders, and the second they find the lowest price, and thirdly they confirm and whether the lower quoted bidder has qualification and experience for that. And the fourth step is contract award and debriefing. After the procurement committee has carefully examined the technical evaluation committee report and has sought any required clarifications from the technical evaluation committee, right? The technical evaluation committee evaluate the prices, and they will hand over that evaluation document to the procurement committee. Procurement committee is the most powerful committee in the procurement. If procurement committee agrees with the findings of technical evaluation committee, the chairperson of the procurement committee shall, in case of cabinet appointed procurement committee, may make a recommendation of the contract awarded to the secretary, to the line ministry. Right? Then procurement committee will recommend to the secretary, to the ministry, to award the contract. In all other cases, convey the determination of the contract award to the secretary, to the land ministry in case of mm, ministry procurement committee, or to the head of the department in case of departmental procurement committee and regional procurement committee, and the project director in case of project procurement committee. Then we'll see award of contract. Prior to contract award, the procuring entity should ensure that budgetary provision is available to meet cost of contract. So again, the procuring entity confirm about the availability of fund for the procurement. Letter of acceptance shall be issued with the validity period of the bid, and no sooner the final determination of contract is completed. Right? The letter of acceptance shall be issued within the validity period of bid, right? So as we already mentioned, so the bid validity periods mentioned in the bids. So the letter of acceptance should be submitted within the validity period of the bid. And no sooner final determination of contract award is completed. And debriefing. The purpose of debriefing are inform the aggressive bidders of the reason for lack of success. Right? I'm pointing out the specific shortcoming in the bids without disclosing contents of other bids, with the overall objective of educating the bidders to submit more responsive and competitive bids in the future. And you know that there are the bid normally bids and contractors are awarded on competitive basis. One contractor will won among them. So others may be right, others may dissatisfied, disappointed. So that time the procuring entity will explain what is the reason behind to not successful in the bid competition. So that's called this debriefing, right? They minimize the level of compliance and to demonstrate clearly the principles and practices of probity and transparency. So, if the procuring entity follows a clear, a transparent procurement procedure, it is easy to answer in the debriefing process. So, the failed bidders will ask more questions. Why did you choose other company, the want bidders, the winner? They will make some lot of comments. So it's responsibility of procuring entity to clarify why they choose the winner in the competition of procurement. And publication of contract award. Publication of contract award. The procuring entity should publish promptly in the website, in its website, if available, the National Procurement Agency website or any other appropriate media, the following particulars in regard to contracts on which award have been made. So if they award the contract, the detail of the contract should be published publicly in the website of their own organization or the National Procurement website or any other media, appropriate media. Description of the items, works for which bids were invited, total number of bids received, name of successful bidders, amount at which the contract was awarded. In case of contract awarded to a foreign principals who has a local agent, name of the local agent. So these are the information should be disclosed at the time of publication of contract award. If the contract value exceeds 250 million Sri Lankan rupees, publication of contract award in at least one widely circulated national newspaper. Right? If the contract value is no more than 2.5 million, so 250 million, they should publish in the national newspaper, the National Procurement Agent's website and government gazettes. It is mandatory, right? So higher value procurements should be the award of the contract should be published publicly. And the final stage is contract administration and closer out. Contract administration and closer out. The procuring entity shall be responsible for ensuring that the execution of work, supply of goods, or the provision of services are adequately supervised. So finally, after awarding the contract, work will be started, and then the procuring entity should have responsibilities to supervise their works, ongoing works by the contractors, and assess for the purpose of making interim and final payment. The quality of goods and the services supplied and the execution of work should be checked independently before acceptance or taking over respectively. So after finishing their work or after delivering their items, the procurement entity should take over the item. So before that, they have to examine the quality. Examine the quality. Particular attention should be paid to claim. Particular attention should be paid to claims arising from disputes and differences during the implementation. And finally, certification of completion of contract. So after complete the contract, before make payment, and the procuring entity should submit a certification of completion of contract. And that's all about on this session.